You're up.
Let's get into it.
All right,
We
let's
have a
jump in.
special-
Let's jump
yeah.
all into
go.
this. Welcome
Yeah.
to the Hopeaholics
Yeah.
Podcast.
Yes.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having
Wow.
me.
Yes.
I'm excited to be here. It's been a while.
Yeah. We're
Been
really excited to
following
have you.
guys
Yeah,
and
yeah,
talking to you guys, and excited to finally be here.
Yeah.
Well, I like it because when I'm watching you, you're like you have a lot of conspiracy theorists,
Yeah.
and you applied that to God and how it affects people's lives and things like that.
Yeah. So I got really into that because of, digging down into the Mormon religion and trying to figure out, I was really ready to turn my life over to God. And so I was like, well, what God, God, where do you want me to go? Do you want me to go down the Mormon path or?
Wait, were you?
So I was.
Oh.
I was raised Mormon,
Okay.
and for, a few decades, I believed that was the only true gospel on the earth.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, but there's a lot that led up to this, but I was really, really sick, and I was in a really abusive relationship, and I said, I'm ready to turn my life around, and I just want to give it all to you, God. But, what religion and really, God doesn't even want us to follow a religion. He wants us in a relationship with him. And so
Totally.
that's what he brought me into. And so I was digging around in the foundations at the core of the Mormon church. And also I worked in human trafficking in the fight against that. And so there was a lot of satanic ritual abuse that I helped people, victims of, through. And I saw a lot of the ritual abuse in Freemasonry. And I was digging through all of that. And then I also, when we were all locked down, I went down a lot of rabbit holes trying to figure out what was going on.
Right.
Yeah. And so you kind of put all three of those together, and I just saw a lot of occult activity, and I wanted to know the truth about it all. So I dug into the truth of it and started to uncover a lot and started to speak out about it. And it became, a lot of people started following me just for that reason. And when I talk about it on my stories, my stories like triple and double, quadruple in views. So sometimes I'm like, okay, God's telling me, stop counting the toes on the beast in Daniel or the lines on the pyramid on the dollar bill, and just, I want you to kind of talk about my word. And it's one thing to bring people over for that, because that's what turned me over. I got scared. I said, there is a plan to enslave humanity, basically, and disconnect us from God, and really to take as many souls to hell as possible. And that's kind of what my research led me to. And I got scared, and I thought, am I going to be like in a FEMA camp? And am I going to be in, forced vaccination? Can I talk about these things?
Yeah.
Sure.
Of course, yes.
So I don't know. Some people are like, oh, we're going to get banned if you say that or
No.
whatever. So you can cut it out. But
Yeah.
I started to get really, really scared, and I was crippled with anxiety and fear. And all at the same time, in working in the human trafficking in the philanthropic area of that, I saw a lot of abuse and things that were happening to children that kind of reopened wounds from my childhood and things that had happened to me. And then also being in a relationship that was really unhealthy, becoming physically ill. All these things just kind of broke me open and like a piñata. And I was ready to turn my life over to God. I needed help. And I sought out doctors and therapists and podcasts and books and Reiki and crystals. I mean, I did it all. And I said, God, I'm ready. Like, I want a relationship with you, but I don't know what to follow. Do I follow the Book of Mormon? Do I follow this New Age stuff? I'm kind of going down these paths, or is it just, and he really just led me into a relationship with him is all he wanted. And so I just am a follower of Jesus Christ. I read the Bible, I read the Word of God, and I follow that.
I absolutely, I love that, because, so I relate to it because I work a 12-step program, and one of the biggest things is people that come into it have a issue in the sense of a relationship with God, right? From either childhood, or either they're not Christian or they're not Catholic or whatnot, where it isn't about being a specific religion at all. It's all about a relationship with a higher power, period. It has nothing to do with like all of the other little, I guess, special little buttons that people like to put onto it, when it's about God's word and building that spiritual relationship with him.
Right.
So I think that's really important. And
Because we can't do it on our own. We
No way.
need something higher than us. And
yeah, I
so-
crash and burn on my own.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
All of us.
I drive that bitch into the ground.
I've been crashing lately, spiritually. I haven't really been keeping up. I've been feeling it too, especially now.
Why is that though?
I think now just because we've been talking about God so much in the last month or two, like the three of us here and people coming in, everyone relates or goes back to God to survive.
Yes.
Everyone I've met, everyone that's been in trouble, everyone that's been through something always finds God to survive. So I just, I used to put we have spiritual stuff. I used to wrap my fingers and
Sure.
and put the thing on my head. I stopped doing all that.
Why?
Just laziness. God out of tune.
Or is it because things, and I'm only asking this is
Yeah.
because sometimes this happens previously with myself, and then I get back on it because sometimes what happens is God will end up blessing you and giving you gifts, and then you rest on your laurels and you forget why you were feeling that peace and why the gifts were coming is because you were doing all of those things prior to that.
Yeah.
So now you've come to the point where you're at the point of like, oh, I need to hit my knees again and start doing
Yeah.
what I was doing
I
and
really
put
do.
God first
Yes.
and build that
100%.
relationship back.
Have to. I made a commitment. I'm going to start doing it tomorrow morning.
Sounds like
Yeah.
he's left the 99 for the one. He's
Yeah.
searching after your heart.
Yeah. I have no choice. I've been mentally off.
No choice now.
I've been in pain, mental pain.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a struggle, and I think a lot of people feel that, and when it's really important to have that relationship and to be able to lean on your relationship with your higher power, mine being God, when times are good, when times are bad. I mean, I talk to my God every day. Just like I was telling the boys yesterday, I'll talk to him in the car, whether it's like, God, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to have a vehicle that can take me to the office today. Thank you for, just little things that sometimes we forget that we have: a roof over our heads, food to eat, being able to, I did Uber Eats yesterday. What in the fuck? Like the fact that you can actually get like that's room service.
Yeah.
Room service.
And the fact that there's money
Room service at home.
I like
Yeah.
and the fact that there's money in my husband and I's bank account for
To
me
do that.
to do that, because at one time there wasn't. And that luxury wasn't even a thought,
Yeah. I do.
So it's sometimes being able to be appreciative, and it's hard when shit's hitting the fan to be appreciative of those little things, but it's important because it takes a discipline, is I feel like one of our three favorite words. It takes a lot of discipline to check yourself and to make sure that I'm aware of whether it is like me bitching and complaining and flipping that perspective around,
Yeah. Well, and it's literally, it's impossible to be grateful and hopeless at the same time.
For sure.
So if you can train your brain and discipline it in your mind and create neural pathways, neuroplasticity is real, and focus on being grateful on what you have, you cannot, it's impossible for your mind to both be grateful and unhappy at the same time.
It's true.
And so, yeah. And back to what you were saying. So we are, and what you were saying, we are spiritual beings in physical bodies. And so we are here living an earthly life, but there is a heavenly realm. And so we are created to worship our Creator. We were designed that way. There is a place inside of us that only our Creator can fill, nothing else. No celebrity worship, no self-love, no drug addiction, no alcohol, no substance, no buying purses and jewelry, no car, no home, no relationship with a spouse can fill. There is a place specifically designed by our Creator for Him, and we will never, ever fill that with anything else. So that's why people are running around empty, and
For sure.
some of the most wealthiest people,
Are miserable.
some of the most famous people are miserable, commit suicide, they're depressed, and it's because there's a vacuum inside of them that they try to fill with things that will never fill it.
Oh, for sure. I want to take it back to, because we obviously see this beautiful woman in front of us filled with obviously a gift, and being able to, speak that out to the public because you were given a platform by God to deliver that message. But obviously it took pain and a lot of things to work through to get to this point right now. And how long were you in your relationship? Were you married?
Yeah, so I actually had 3 really tough relationships that brought me to where I'm at. So it took 3 for me.
Oh,
Yeah, I think God was just like, okay, Lyndi, you're still not getting it. And basically, I was taught to keep secrets growing up, and so to portray a perfect Mormon family on the outside, but there couldn't be anything further from the truth once I was inside my home. And then I took that into the 3 relationships I got into, pretending like they were great on the outside, but they were really, really painful on the inside.
okay.
And the secrets you are keeping you sick.
Oh, for sure.
And that is why I finally got so sick. And because I kept those secrets. And also, I didn't have anyone to help me take that and navigate it towards self-reflection. So, and I ran away. Basically, I ran. So I ran away from home at 14, came back for a little bit, ran away again at 16. Then I ran away to college thinking life would be great in Utah. I ran home because I had eating disorders that were wreaking havoc on my life, my mental and physical health. So I ran away from there, went back home. Then I ran into a relationship with a man that was older than me and seduced me into this relationship. I married him, got pregnant. He was addicted to opiates and died from opiate poisoning.
Oh, wow.
I woke up in the bed next to him.
Oh,
I was 3 months pregnant. Yeah. And, during that year I was with him, we would late night run around to different places and people to try to find him these painkillers that he was addicted to if he couldn't get enough. And he would go to different doctors and try to get different prescriptions. And his sister-in-law was a pharmacist or worked for a pharmacy. And he would convince her to, get drugs from there. And then we'd show up to random people's houses. And I'm 21 years old.
wow.
And yeah. And so, and then delivering a child at the tender age of 22, thinking I was going to be married to Prince Charming and growing up on Disney movies and have a family, that shattered everything. So then I ran into another relationship that I thought was the man of my dreams. And he played baseball for the Angels and Dodgers, and my life was beautiful. And I thought, okay, this is a new life. And I was still keeping secrets of my childhood, of even my son's father, instead of saying, yeah, he died from opiate poisoning. And life with him was incredibly abusive. And he knocked me out cold a few times. He threw me downstairs, knocked me unconscious, and gave me concussions and fat lips, and knocked a part of my tooth out by throwing me down concrete stairs. Slapped me, pulled my hair, did all these things. But I told everyone, oh, it was wonderful, and he was my first love. And, he died from just this prescription that they gave him for migraines, because I wanted my son to believe something that wasn't true, that his dad that he didn't come from this kind of a person.
Yeah.
And I told everyone my childhood and my family was great. And so I was keeping secrets. And then my life looked beautiful on the outside. I had a lot of people that envied my life.
Sure.
I was married to a baseball player, and I'm traveling around on first class and private planes and with a team and staying in 5-star hotels. And, I had a huge diamond wedding ring, and I had everything from a G-Wagon and 3 other cars in the driveway to drive, And then he broke my heart. He had affair after affair after affair. And that devastated me in a whole different way of betrayal that I had never experienced before. So I went to a therapist who I said, I don't know if I should get a divorce or not, because I don't want to be the one that broke up the family, because he would have stayed. So, he's
That's
that
rough.
typical wants.
Yeah, kid, you need it too.
Yes. And so he wanted the cute family at home, and he wanted to be out clubbing at Sutra and Dennis Rodman's and that whole Newport Beach party lifestyle, and have girls on the road, but the family at home. And, and I was in love with him. And I know he loved me too. And we have 3 children. He adopted my oldest son.
Wow.
We have 2 more boys together. And we, I've known him for most of my adult life, really. I met him when I was 23. And so, it's been over 2 decades of him being in my life. And we're able to have conversations now and grow, and we co-parent well. And I love him. And then I went on to another almost 4 years, about 3.5 years, with another really toxic partner that the whole thing was toxic. His family dynamic with his ex-wife and kids, it was very toxic. And then that bled onto me and my children. And I think that's what it finally took. Oh, because going back, that therapist said, he sat 4 books in my lap. I'll never forget it. And he said, this is your homework. And I looked down and I see 4 books, narcissist this, narcissism and this, narcissism and marriage, you're married. And I looked at him and I said, oh, I'm a narcissist. And he said, oh, dear God, no. Like, and I was a psychology major in school. And so, but 20 years ago, it was like this philosophical man looked in the water and loved his own reflection. And to me, I just thought it was someone that was very egocentric. And I didn't understand the personality disorder of it. And so he said, no, honey, you need to know what you're dealing with, because knowledge is power. And it is. Except I read these books within a week. I mean, I just consumed them. Yeah. I could not believe it was describing exactly what I was going through, my first marriage and the second. Right. The one I was widowed in, and this one that man I was with for almost 14 years. And I thought, whoa, like, were they a fly on the wall? Like, how do they know him? Yeah. And I swear narcissists all go to the same school. They're pulled aside somewhere at school, and they're taught the same handbook, because it plays out almost the same every time. And that's why I decided to become a coach and help people with it, because my childhood was very steeped in narcissistic abuse. And then I took that as a blueprint into my adult relationships. And so I read these books and I was like, wow, this is so, I felt liberated. I'm leaving, so I leave. And because I didn't reflect on why I chose these partners. Totally. What part did I play in it? Why did I accept this treatment? Why did I accept this abuse? Why didn't I turn away at the first sign of this? I jumped right into it again. So 3rd time's a charm, and that one broke me open. And in the last year, I've dated someone for a few weeks, a month now, and I'm like, oh, I'm still like a moth to a flame to these type of men.
I'm sorry,
it's very true. Crazy. If I'm in with a 500-mile radius, they love me and they'll find me, and I love them. And so, it's biological too, because as women, especially if you know about like the feminine masculine balance, then if I'm very in my feminine, I love that masculinity, that power. Of course. I grew up in survival mode. So here's this man that is going to protect me and provide. And so that's how biologically I see it. And then from my trauma, from my nervous system, it feels very comfortable. And that is what it knows. And it's drawn, like water will find its level. And I found these men that just replicated and recreated that dynamic from my childhood, which we will always do. Our trauma is our type.
Do you work a 12-step program? The only reason why I ask is because one of our steps is exactly, you hit the nail on the head, and I think it's a really, I feel like anybody that is even not, an alcoholic or an addict would benefit from working a 12-step program, just because what it does is make you get to step 4 and you start having to really take a self-inventory. And that self-inventory is what a lot of people don't want to do. A lot of people say it's the hardest step in recovery. To me, I couldn't wait to get there, but it's peeling back.
Same pattern, same behavior.
100%.
Yeah, that's all of the stuff that's in that step.
Results,
you look at your patterns, you look at your behaviors, you
look
at your part. You look at your part.
You have to.
All of your own personal character defects and like what you brought to the table and what like exactly your part, because it takes 2 to tango always. And we all play a part.
It's kind of the water will find its level, and so there's trauma there with narcissists, with people with personality disorders, with addicts. Yeah, it's trauma at the core, and you're really trying to. It's a maladaptive way to heal a broken heart. And basically, I may not do drugs, but I'm addicted to the dopamine rush and the oxytocin and the rush that comes with a trauma bond. Yeah. I've experienced eating disorders, cutting, body dysmorphia.
That makes sense.
Love addict.
Because like you have direct control over that. You have control over.
I wanted control.
Yes.
Because I didn't have control in my life.
Yes. So like I totally relate to women and men, because men have it as just as much. They're just not as open as women with like body dysmorphia as well as like eating disorders.
Oh, men have it too.
For sure.
There's a gym addict is.
Yes.
It's still it's a maladaptive, form of an eating disorder or whatever. Restricting your calories to extremes, all of that. They are eating disorders.
100%. For sure. And it's all things, what it really stems for is like those types of things is like you have that direct control over. So it feels like it gives you some type of like satisfaction in some way because you're controlling it as like, which obviously
as a child you didn't feel you
completely
had control. Your life, your parents, your household seemed unpredictable.
Right.
You had no control. You didn't have choices a lot of times.
Yeah.
So you grow up and you find ways to have control in your life.
Yeah.
And so if you can find the root.
Yes.
And that's why I'm not a big fan of certain ways to heal, because I don't believe you're healing. You're not getting to the root if you just pop a pill and you do this and that.
And reading a book, like all of those things. And like we say it all the time, it's good.
Another tool in your toolbox.
Yes, education is great. Knowledge is power. Reading certain books is amazing. But if you're not doing the actionable steps required to actually heal on a daily basis, you're just putting a little tiny Band-Aid.
Yes.
On
it's
something.
A Band-Aid. And if you keep sticking like little duct tape on holes in a boat, what happens?
Yeah. In the program, we say we have a daily reprieve based on our spiritual maintenance. So
I've never been through the program. And the people I've been with that have all been addicts, none of them, one has passed away obviously. And then the other two, they still deny any kind of
use
problem.
Oh, yeah. So they're not,
No,
I get
so
it.
I really am not. Other than my
Yeah.
youngest sister was an addict and went through the AA program, and so she shared little bits and pieces with me. But other than that,
it's everything you
I
talk
don't.
about.
It is.
Really?
That's why I was
Yeah.
like, do you work a 12-step program?
It's-
Because literally you're hitting all of the things that once you enter like treatment, or once you go and you start working a 12-step program and have a sponsor and you sponsor other women, like the 12 steps are designed in all of the things that you have said. So that's why I asked. I was like,
That's so cool. No, and it's interesting to think that they all kind of streamline.
Yeah.
A little secret. They took the 12 steps. There's different verses in the Bible that created the 12 steps.
Oh, so they do, because I thought it was a higher power. I didn't know that.
So originally, it's written like that to not scare away the alcoholic and the addict, because addicts and alcoholics are very scared of the word God, right?
Why?
But I don't know why.
I don't. Yeah. I think it's from just making it more open for everyone, so that way people can't be like, oh, I can't do a 12-step program, I can't go to AA or NA or CA or whatever because it's only God and I was raised, I'm Jewish.
But Jewish people believe in God.
Totally.
They believe in
so do Mormons.
The Father.
Or Mormons are what? Jesus.
It's still God and Jesus. It's just a completely different Jesus than the Bible describes him as.
Yeah.
So,
but the funny part about the steps is, so the second step says higher power, but the third step says we turned our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. And what I like about that step is exactly what you said when you first came in and sat down. It's about having that personal relationship with God, right? We all, and that's the thing that you guys were talking about in the beginning, is that, sometimes the church becomes man-made, right?
Yeah.
And then it's not.
And like you said, you worship the pastor.
Yes.
Yeah. And everybody has their own interpretation of what they read, and through the experiences that they've already had
through
in
the
their
lens
life.
of their trauma, their life, their parents, their childhood. They're seeing it through the lens of that, and so.
And that's why I love what you said when you came in, because I'm all about, I have a personal relationship with God. and what I find when you have that personal relationship is all those things that you study in the Bible, those things you are lessons that you are able to now apply in your own
Yes.
life.
She talks about that too. Yeah. Yeah.
I use it.
Yeah.
I love it.
People don't realize it, but read the book of Proverbs.
Yeah.
And it will teach you to be a better human being, a better friend, a better brother, sister, wife, mother, business owner, boss,
Leader.
parent, child. Read the book of Proverbs. And yeah.
Like,
I love
why wouldn't people want all of that stuff?
But when you
That's
said
what-
they're afraid of God, I was like, why? Because I love to find
Sure.
out the truth. I love to get to the bottom of things. That is like my,
Yeah.
and
Some
it's
people,
why I know
can
the things
give
that are
you
in this
the-
12-step program.
There
I
are
know.
examples that I know. Like some people were religiously abused.
I was wondering that.
Yeah, there's religious. My experience with the Seventh Day Adventist church was, it was good, but I was definitely had some conflict, spiritual conflicts with my own morals and values because of what I was taught by the Seventh Day Adventist church. The doctrine is very much like the Jewish doctrine.
Oh, it is? I thought
yes,
it was a little more like Christianity. for
it is
some reason.
Christianity. It is. They believe in Jesus. They believe in. It's a lot of Old Testament though.
Okay.
It's a lot of Old Testament. Hardcore stuff.
Okay. Yeah,
And
I know. Right now, I'm a bigger fan of the New. I love the Old Testament too, but
Yeah.
sometimes in your walk, there's different seasons, right? Right
Yeah.
now, I'm a big lover of the New Testament, but okay.
So we did the same stuff though, like no bottom feeders, no pork, no most Seventh Day Adventists are vegetarian. You can't do anything from sundown on Friday night
Oh,
to
so it is
sundown
a lot
on
like the Jewish
Yeah.
religion.
Saturday
Okay.
night. Yeah. And we believe that Saturday is the holy day because if you look at the Gregorian calendar,
I agree with that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Saturday is actually the day that you go to church. And that's why we were called Seventh Day Adventists. Yeah.
Okay. But so do they not believe that Jesus came as a sacrificial lamb that did away with the law?
They're
Okay.
very
Because he is the law, and he says that the law is now ingrained on our hearts, because of what. So he took that sacrifice, and we no longer have those laws. They were there as a placeholder before he came,
yeah.
to separate the believers.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think going back to your question on like why do people have like such an issue about hearing like God and say a 12-step or
Yeah.
whatnot recovery program, I think one is also like you have, because I was raised Catholic, right? So you have obviously in the Catholic Church, priests that are obviously not doing what a
Right.
priest should be doing, right? And so they some have been molested as children, so then they have an ill relationship with God, as opposed to displacing that anger upon that individual person is like the one, as opposed to but a lot of people do sometimes, they'll get through it and push past.
Yeah,
Then-
like myself.
yeah. And then there's also people that use it as an excuse
Right.
to continue in their active addiction and bad behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So there's different elements as into why people have like a little issue. And the girls that I've sponsored that say, I mean, the big book, which is basically kind of a similarity to the Bible, a lot of the things that are pulled from it. They have a chapter in there called like We Agnostics, like breaking it down and trying to push past it for people that have the issue with believing in a higher power, and that being God. All the AA meetings that I attend, we always do like the Our Father prayer at the end. We're always saying
Yeah.
God in it. So it's like clearly, and I've been to meetings all around the world. Clearly all these people believe in God. The people that are sitting in that room have no issue with it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
even though in AA you can say, you can pray to the tree
Okay.
to get them through that
Right.
initial
For the
phase.
universe, right? A lot of.
Oh, totally. He has a
universe.
great one, the ocean, like because of the water, and they'll push through, say like for the first couple months or maybe even a year if they have that like ill relationship towards God, and then eventually that will slowly go away, and then it becomes,
Yeah, that's actually where I was wondering if the conversation would go. I wanted to see because that was my experience. And so I think, and a lot of people I know that have addiction typically comes, and there's all sorts of, there's a few different reasons. There's biological, spiritual, there's even demonic possession that can cause addiction. And so there's biological, there's physical, there's spiritual realm, right? And so, but a lot of times it begins in sin or trauma, and then that leads to the physiological dependency on substance. And so at the core, a lot of times it is trauma that addicts,
For sure.
even myself, who maybe
Sure.
didn't find it in drugs,
Sure.
found it in other things. I thought, oh, I don't have an addictive personality. And the more I realized that, I don't snort cocaine,
Right.
and I'm not a drunk. I actually don't even like being drunk, but I have my addictions.
Totally.
They're just much more secretive because
Right.
I was taught to keep secrets and to look perfect on the outside. I don't know too many cokeheads that, were meth addicts that look very perfect on the outside, and that was a big thing for me. And so I think that's why that coping mechanism did not manifest for me. And I was raised with that good girl programming, and so good girls don't, do drugs and
For sure.
are alcoholics. So there's many reasons why we go in different directions with that same core trauma. And especially a lot of times you will relate God to your caregiver. And so if your caregivers were hurting you and harming you and traumatizing you, you're going to relate that to God. And you'll look at him and you'll think, well, I don't trust you.
Yeah. How could you let this
How could
happen?
you trust someone that's letting that happen? And he's not. He's there. He answers all your prayers. He does. But he's also bound by laws, and he's a very orderly God. And but he also redeems, restores, replaces,
sure.
and can work miracles in your life. So, but that's where I was kind of going, because I think that a lot of times we struggle with God, and it took me a while. It took me till 40 to really turn my life over to him, because I'll be honest, I was angry with him for a long time. And I thought, if you're who you say you are, and you love me, and I grew up in the most religious household, why are people in my home and in my church hurting me and betraying me and harming me and causing trauma in my life? Why would they do this? And so you look at God and you think, well, then I can't trust you. So it's really hard, and you have to have an understanding of who Jesus Christ is and how he operates, and that he is always faithful. He does answer your prayers. It just doesn't always look how we want it to look.
For sure. How are you able to leave your last relationship, and how is your relationship now with your family?
So I just posted yesterday how I was homeless at one point, and Shane reposted it. It's interesting. And so people look at me and they don't, realize that. But I do wardrobe styling, so I'm able to kind of put myself together and whatever. But I left it. I drove off after one big drunken rage, and at a restaurant where the table was flipped on me, and I ran out to the car, and there were people that chased me out to the parking lot, and they said, "Do you want us to call the police?" And I said, "I don't know." And I ran off, and I left. And I actually still have a lot of belongings, children's photo albums and buckets of their work from kindergarten, and clothes and curling irons and makeup and shoes still there. And I left, and I went to a hotel that night because I didn't know what else to do, and I was just upset. And then I stayed with a friend for 2 months until I was able to because I got really sick. So I was sick for 2 years, and I spent my life savings on healing, because I refused to take. I was given a box filled with, orange bottles of pills. Everything from steroids to immunosuppressants, low dosage chemotherapy, to painkillers and inflammatories, but there was like Xanax and all, like,
Oh yeah.
because they were like, you have anxiety disorder, you have this, you have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, you have lupus, you have
Oh my gosh.
fibromyalgia, you have Crohn's disease, which I didn't end up having that. You have Lyme disease, it was like 14 things that I was diagnosed with. And I was so sick, and every single bone and joint in my body was inflamed and hurt. My brain was inflamed. My body was inflamed. I had all these autoimmune disorders and peptic ulcers, and
Wow.
my stomach was a mess, destroyed. And that you have a gut-brain axis, so they're all connected. And so I was a mess, basically. And so what I like to say is, God bless this mess. And he turned my mess into a message. And basically, that was the breaking point where I said, I've got to get out of this. And I got my own place after like 2 months of staying with a friend. And I'm actually friends with him now, and we talk often. And I actually care about him, and I've forgiven all the past, narcissists and people with personality disorders. It is also a trauma response from a childhood of trauma. And so it doesn't just come out of nowhere. And if you're able to have those conversations with them, you're able to be able to forgive them. And you don't get that with everybody. I had the hardest time forgiving my mom and a sister. You asked me about my family. So I left that way, and I had to rebuild. I had nothing. I laugh about the fact that, one day I'm living in, a beautiful estate and driving nice cars, and the next
flying private, living literally the
driving
life.
a Range Rover, living the life that people are envy of. I have Louis Vuitton luggage. I sold all of it. I had Rolexes. I sold them. And here I am, renting right now I'm renting a tiny little place that isn't nice or fancy. I have a used car, but I have my identity in Christ. I have a relationship with my Creator. I have a love. I have self-worth and love for myself. I'm proud of myself. I never could say that before.
Yeah.
I have peace that surpasses all understanding. I have hope, and, I have happiness and joy that I've never had. And the Bible says to consider it all a joy. So when I used to think that God hated me, because why would he make my life like this? And there's all these people on Instagram posting their beautiful family pictures and their perfect homes with their perfect families and their kids dressed in matching outfits. And I would delete Instagram off my phone. And I would say, I just can't look at this anymore. And I was angry. And I thought, well, why doesn't my life look like this? But I know that I would never, ever have the relationship that I have right now with him and myself had I not gone through what I went through. If I had that perfect little life, I wouldn't seek him out the way I did.
100%.
So that's why I love him so much, and that's why I'm grateful for every hardship I went through. So,
and I think that's huge, because that's the most what you have experienced and the journey that brought you to where you're at today. That's priceless. That's why you see on it, like, that's why Instagram is an amazing tool and it's fantastic, but it's easy to get caught up in being envious or jealous of other people's lives. But behind the closed doors, behind that beautiful photo, you have no idea what's going on. Hence why you see a lot of celebrities, or why you see a lot of people that have a lot of money that you think that's why, oh my gosh, I want all of that. And then they commit suicide.
Right.
And then they're in shambles, like, what happened? This is crazy. How can they do this? When it's like, because what they have this empty void in themselves that they're clearly lacking, and they're really unhappy. So when you find that peace and that relationship with a God, that is priceless.
It really
that's what people are searching for, because that will fill your soul, and that will make you feel
nothing else will, like
nothing. No amount of booze, no amount of pills, no amount of Louis Vuitton, like all of the things that we do to get that dopamine rush. Is just a rush for that little bit of time.
And it doesn't last.
No, it doesn't.
No, but your Creator, his love is everlasting. And that's what I found. And so, but I think forgiveness is the key. So when you said, how's your relationship with your family? I lost my dad 2.5 years ago. And it was really hard on me. I was devastated. I was crushed, just bawling. And I had to kind of think, well, why am I so devastated when he really wasn't? He was emotionally unavailable and, a bit abusive in my childhood. And why was I so devastated? And we weren't even that close. Well, I was mourning the loss of the relationship that I would never have with him. And so I was really crushed by that. That's over. It's not going to happen now. And I was sad. But the reason why I was able to forgive my father and love him dearly is because I don't know that this is something that I don't know biblically or what. But a lot of times before someone passes, they seem to it's like their spirit almost knows. Or maybe old age, he just knew he's getting older. But something was happening in him in the last year or two. And he never reached out and said, hey, Lyndi, I'm sorry. I wasn't the dad that, I should have been growing up or even in your adult life. But he would reach out and just send me sweet text messages when I was really sick. He would say, he'd send me a little check and say, go, how can I help? And I'm so sorry you're sick. And what do you need? I'm going to come out. He was really never there for me or my children. And it really hurt me, him and my mom. They're really, they're like Christmas grandparents, right? And so it really hurt me, but it was the same as my childhood, really. So I don't know why I expected anything different. Mm-hmm. But they never showed up. This broke me, and I quit everything I loved. They never showed up to my track meets. They never showed up to when I was a cheerleader. They didn't show up to the football games. I had to get rides with the other girls. And their parents would be painting like a little paw because we were the bears on their faces. And they'd be like, oh, Lyndi, do you want me to do one on you? And it would just break me to look and see that my parents weren't there. Mm. And, they're human. We adopted sin nature, inherited it from Adam. They had, troubled childhoods themselves. And so understanding that helped me forgive, but it caused a lot of pain for years for me. Yeah. And so my dad would say, I want to come out and see the kids game. And so, my mom and dad would come out and we'd go eat after, and he would just call me. He never used to call me or reach out, and he would just say the cutest, sweetest little things. And so to me, that was my dad's way of showing me that he loved me and he cared and he was sorry. And then he passed, and I was sad because I was like, wait, we were just starting to have a relationship that I wanted for 40 years. And now he's gone. And I was really, really sad about that. So then I thought, I'm going to try harder to have a relationship with my mom, and I'm going to be vulnerable. So I opened up to her, I called her, and I said, Mom, I want a relationship with you. That's what I want, And she just can't do it. So, it's hard for me with the betrayal from her, and my youngest sister both betrayed me in ways that were just so hurtful. And the first husband that passed away. So those are the three people that I struggled to forgive. But the ex-husband, the ex-fiance, and even my dad, we've all been able to have these redemptive conversations and things in life. And so what I finally learned is, Jesus died for me. I'm a sinner too. And I've hurt people. I've made mistakes. And so I'm no different than they are. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I realized if I want forgiveness, if I want the work on the cross for myself, that same bloodshed, that same price that was paid was also for them. And that's when I was able to, because I held a lot of resentment for the husband that died too. It triggered abandonment and rejection issues.
Yeah, I mean, you were 3 months pregnant.
I was 3 months pregnant.
And you're so young.
I was so excited. I was young, and I just was so excited to have a baby. Yeah. And then I had to go do it on my own. I felt abandoned, and it triggered that abandonment, issue from childhood. Sure. And when I was trying to heal, I asked God, I said, there's still a stronghold in my life that I just can't conquer. What am I still held hostage by, what am I enslaved by? And finally he showed me it was the spirit of abandonment. But I didn't understand that because I grew up in a household where my parents were married. They were married for 50 years almost. When my dad passed away, they were just about to celebrate their 50th anniversary. They never did girls, like how we do now. They never did girls' trips or guys' trips my mom and dad were that very old-fashioned.
Oh, that's my parents.
Married young. My mom was 19. My dad was just off a Mormon mission and 23. Married, kid after kid after kid, church every Sunday. We looked like the model family. And so, what were
your parents?
They were, so I had this my parents loved each other, but I just wasn't modeled really healthy marriage. I don't know. So, but I feel like I was going somewhere with that and I forgot.
How traditional, they go.
I do that all the time. I do that all the
time. How now they go on girls trips or guys trips.
No.
Your parents never did that?
No. And so, but I still feel like there was somewhere
that you were
going with that.
I have a similar feeling, though. Maybe it'll jog your memory. So when I was growing up, my dad got into a motorcycle. My parents were divorced when I was 3 or 4. My last memory is my mother chasing my dad out of the house with a kitchen knife.
No.
Swear to God. That's my last
I don't know why I'm
memory.
laughing. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's my last memory. So fast forward, he's in a motorcycle accident when I'm 8 or 9 or 10 years old. They pulled the plug. He doesn't die. He lives another 10 years.
What?
Yes.
I didn't know this.
Lives another 10 years and dies on my birthday. And then I started thinking, wow, should I have gone and visited him? Did he want me to come visit him? Was it him dying on my birthday a way of saying, sorry, Shane, that I wasn't there for you growing up? You know?
Yeah.
So I was trying. I think you grasp at things. And I think that
Yeah.
if you look close enough to your parents and your younger sister, there's something you could grab. It's there.
Yeah. There's
And I
something
think
there.
there's something there.
I
you
love
can-
them.
Yes, there's something there that's going to grab. You can grab and you could say, wow, I'm okay with them now.
There was always good there. I've made mistakes too. I'm
Yeah.
not perfect either.
Yeah.
So there was something there. I had a relationship with them. I loved them. And I know that they love me. And
That's all they know, I think, maybe.
sometimes that's all they know.
You
And
know?
we can't fix them.
No.
So
No,
No,
and the only thing that we can do is what you said, is we can forgive them.
forgive them.
You know, and that's what I think about, all the pain and betrayal and everything that Jesus went through before he was hung on the cross.
Yeah.
And then
It
he
was
was
horrific.
and then he was hung on the cross. And you know what he said? He said, God,
them.
forgive them, for they know not what they do.
Right.
That is what he said.
That is one of the most humble and just loving things you could say. And these people that did such horrific things to him, and he said, Father, forgive them.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
And I like what you said too, in the sense of any time that I struggled with forgiveness or having some type of resentment towards another individual, regardless if it was justified or not, because who am I to even say
yeah, it's
that
just
is?
easier to forgive somebody when they say they're sorry.
It is. But then I have to remember how many people did I hurt? How many horrible things did I do?
Look at
and
the
I was
things I've
forgiven.
done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like being able to forgive and understand that we are not all perfect
No.
is something that is really important, because if you stay in the resentment and the unforgiveness, all that's really doing is hurting yourself. Because sometimes the other individual that you're resenting doesn't even give a fuck.
I know.
And that's
Doesn't even
what's-
know how.
Or
Exactly.
they don't even know. It's like
They don't
weighing
know,
you
they don't
down.
care.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's like you're literally poisoning yourself.
Yeah,
That's what
my-
they
And they-
say.
that's
It's
my-
like having
it's a-
poison, and it's you
Yes.
drinking
It's
it.
like a resentment is like me drinking poison, hoping it's gonna hurt
Yes.
you.
Right. And
Well,
it's
it's
so
not.
true.
It's
'Cause
so
I
true.
was the one that felt heavy with it.
Right.
Like I was really bothering me and causing me a lot of pain. And so I finally knew that it was time to let go and
Yeah.
forgive. But I struggled with the ones that hadn't said they were sorry, and
Sure.
that there doesn't seem to be a time, maybe one day. And so those are the ones I said, God, why am I struggling so much with this? And it's almost like you feel like if you let go of it and you forgive, that you're letting them off the hook.
Right.
But it's not true.
No.
It's for you. It's for what it does inside of you, through you, in you, for him. And he can do that. So I said, God, I can't do this. I'm struggling to really let go. So I need you to do it for me. Take it from me. Because he says that his yoke is light. His burden is easy. Give it to him and he can carry it. So I gave it to him. I asked him to remove it for me and he did. And so it's really, really a beautiful thing. God will fill in the gaps. He will fill in the blanks. He will make up where we lack. And I don't know. He's just I will say it, just like the poison analogy, it was weighing me down.
Sure.
And it was bothering me. And I was crying about it. And I felt angry. And when I let it go and when he took it from me, there was this weight off my shoulders and just it was replaced with joy.
I mean, I'm sure that also was having issues and making you physically ill
Yeah.
as well.
So all the illness, there's physical and spiritual,
Sure.
reasons for illness. And but one of mine was, I remembered what it was that I was talking about with my parents was abandonment. So why would I be suffering with the spirit of abandonment when my dad was home for dinner at 5 every night? We did the whole sit down and eat dinner every night. Like my family looked like somebody who was not abandoned.
Yeah.
But that's when I learned about emotional abandonment. So I was abandoned by my parents emotionally at as young as I can remember. So, I mean, I remember as young as 3 being, I really am trying to honor my parents. And so when I talk about the abuse, God's been kind of putting on my heart that, even though at 3 and 7, I have these really horrific memories of abuse, the Bible says to honor your parents. And so I forgive them. I love them. I honor them. They definitely had their own struggles in life. And and if you don't heal, it will bleed on to your children and your children's children.
100%.
There are generational curses. There are demonic spirits that will attach to your bloodline, like alcoholism, like drug addiction, like depression. The enemy will find places in fractured minds where trauma happens to lodge lies into your mind, because we are body, soul, and spirit, and cause you to go seeking ways to heal your broken heart. And he will present you with, here's a drug, here's alcohol, here's shopping, here's a man that looks really great.
Yeah.
But God's over here saying, I have something so much better for you. But if you're impatient, you will take what the enemy gives you. And so you can have the spirit of rejection. You can have the spirit of abandonment, even when it looks like that parent is home at dinner for 5, because emotional abandonment, emotional abuse is just as, if not worse, than physical abandonment and physical abuse. And it takes longer to heal because you don't see it.
Yeah.
When the dad leaves the home or the mom leaves the home, or you have a broken bone or a black eye, and I've experienced all of this, so I'm speaking from experience, and I'm not excusing any behavior. I'm explaining. It is painful and it's horrible that someone that you love would do that to you, that's supposed to keep you safe, would hurt you physically, and that they'd leave. But when you can see it, you know what to heal. And people say, I see that your dad is gone. Your mom hasn't shown up in years for her weekend, or your dad hasn't shown up for your birthday. You have a bruise on you. What happened? But when it's emotional and it's stored deep down and you don't see it and people don't help you navigate through those emotions, the trauma gets stored deeper and deeper into your nervous system until you become 40 and get broken open like a piñata.
Totally.
and you have 14 illnesses to now leave a relationship, your third one that it finally took. All of these illnesses, being sick. I was down to like 100 pounds. I was so sick. I could barely walk, move. I had to wear baggy sweatpants because I couldn't even pull up like tight things. Like that's how I couldn't hold my phone. Like my son would hold it for me, and yeah, everything hurt. I couldn't hold anything down. My stomach was just, my gut was destroyed, because your gut will hold a lot of trauma.
Sure.
Well,
your
you're
trauma
born with is your stomach.
Yeah.
Everything grows from your
Develops
stomach.
from
So
there out.
when you're a baby, it's not the brain or the heart. It's actually your stomach that's
Yeah.
goes
In
first.
Chinese medicine, they say bad stomach, bad health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Two questions actually. One, the first one is, I had a hard time doing this, and it was forgiving myself. I was able to forgive all the people around me, including the person that molested me.
I'm sorry.
But then after that, my sponsor was like, I did this. We have this in the steps. We have a list, like forgiveness list, right? And we actually go and make amends to people.
Do you write each person?
Yes.
Or
we
your name.
physically write them, and then we physically go tell them.
You
that
do?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're never supposed to like think that they're going to say I'm sorry. It's amazing if they do say I'm sorry too back.
Expect it.
No. If you all
And you never you go with no intention of
Yes.
them accepting your
Yes.
apology either. So the step actually says we make direct amends whenever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others.
Okay.
So if my apology is going to harm him or somebody else, we don't make that apology.
You're like, that
we,
person's probably going to pull a gun on me.
or like
we-
if you're
we-
married
Or if you're,
like
and
say you were
like
married
it would not be
and
okay.
acceptable.
like
or
say Shane was married and I had an
am
affair
married.
with his wife.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know it's really gnarly, right? And then I went and apologized to Shane,
Yeah.
right?
But
And
I
he
didn't
didn't,
know.
and he
And
didn't know.
like that's silliness.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't even make sense because that's causing now.
So
That's for him to work out in his marriage, and your
So
forgiveness doesn't have to be physical in that circumstance.
just want to be
That-
clear that never happened, Shane. Shane is a pretty good guy. But, like stuff like that. And so I had a hard time. And my first question to you was, did you have a hard time forgiving yourself?
Yeah, that was definitely something that I forgot to bring up in the forgiveness. So those people, and then myself. But it was another one of those things that I didn't realize it. It took me a little while to go, oh, sometimes you miss these pieces, and I love this program. Maybe I do need to do it. Because, maybe there's little pieces I was missing. It took me a while. And I think I listened to a podcast or read a book where it's like, okay, you need to forgive yourself. And I was like, oh, okay. And that was hard because I've made mistakes. One of the things, this is a tough one. So the hardest thing I had, so keeping the lies, the secrets from my son, I thought I was doing him a favor, but I really wasn't. I was keeping secrets that made me sick and maybe shorted him the ability to process that information the way he should have been able to. I don't know. Maybe. And so now I am, right? But, okay. So when I was married to my ex-husband, he had multiple affairs, and one of them resulted in a pregnancy with the other woman. And I was pregnant at the same time.
Oh, man.
So I believed the Mormon church was true. I believed in God. But I went to baseball games on Sundays, was raising little kids. My marriage, my baseball life, even doing charity work through the Angels organization and things like that. I found, and my friends, and I was very worldly at the time. Shopping, I was more worried about what handbag and what shoes were popular at the time. Even though I believed in God, it was not in relationship with Him. And I look back, and it's the biggest regret of my life. So I actually, I had an abortion, and he knew, and he flew back and met me there, picked me up, drove me home bawling from it. I regretted it and wished I could take it back every single minute since. I have 3 boys, and I felt like I knew it was a little girl. And I wish she was here, and I regret it, and I beat myself up over it. Still to this day, it's still something I don't know that I fully forgiven myself for. And I want her. I've had dreams. I want her here. And I took her life away. And I know Jesus died on the cross for me, but I still don't know that I've fully forgiven myself for it. And I kept that a secret for a really long time. And I was actually at a women's conference last year. And I decided to confess it with a group of women in a house in Idaho. About 19 women. And I said, I need to confess with my mouth. And, they prayed over me. And it's lifted some of that burden. But to be totally honest with you, I don't know that I've still fully forgiven myself. It's the biggest regret of my life. I wish I never did it. If I could go back in time, I would never, ever, ever have done that. And I wish I could. I wish I could go back and undo that. And I can't. And I don't know if I can be redeemed from that. And I'm still struggling with it. But I know He says that He can. I know He says it. But I wish I didn't do it, and I struggle to forgive myself for it. And I want to. I know the Bible says He does. I don't know, though. There's a little piece of me that has not fully let that go. I want her. I want my baby. And I wish I didn't do it. And the other girl ended up saying that she miscarried. I don't know. A lot of people said, oh, she never really was. She just wanted him to leave you. I don't know. She was really pregnant. I don't know if she miscarried. I don't know. But my heart was broken. I didn't want to bring this baby into a world where I had a sibling the same age as it. and have play dates or weekends, or what was that going to look like? And my fear and my pride and I don't know if the enemy got to me. I don't know. But I thought I could fix that solution and get rid of it and then leave him. We ended up staying together for like another 8 years, actually. We divorced. We remarried. I married him twice. That's why I have a 10-year age gap. So I have an 11-year-old, and then I have 2 adult children. So I had another baby. I thought maybe that would replace that hole in my heart. But it didn't. So I think that one's still not fully. Thanks, Chad.
But you know what? To me, one, thank you so much for sharing that. And number 2, it's like you should look how much growth you have done for yourself in the sense of you were raised to keep secrets.
Yeah.
Well, you just are walking through one of your biggest.
I never had anyone navigate big emotions.
And that's
with me.
huge. But like you being able to walk through that, even though right now it seems that it's maybe not one of the ones that you have fully accepted, the amount of women that you are helping, because you do have a large platform as well, by sharing that vulnerability and that struggle, and the fact that there are days that it still gets to you and that you're walking through that to me is a sign of somebody that is really doing the work. And that's like what inspires me about people is, and what attracts me about people is doing the work that is so hard to do. Yeah. And that right there is an emotional toll that you have had to endure and walk through. And then to have the vulnerability to say it out loud, and to also admit that it's that one that is still lingers. To me, as I couldn't imagine what you feel at the moment, but it's inspiring in the sense of you're doing the footwork, and that's what's required to heal. So you're healing.
Yeah, one step at a time, right? One foot in front of the other.
Exactly.
And maybe even today, maybe that was meant to be that you asked that question that kind of broke that open and let those floodgates come out.
For
so
sure.
I could really get closer to forgiving myself for that, because I do believe that, that's something that's still holding me back a little bit.
And you know what? I'm going to play the devil's advocate on this one too, because your reasonings behind that also, from what you had said, to me is justifiable in the sense of
it would have been hard for anyone to
right. How do you know that little person would have even been okay with not only being in the limelight, because you guys obviously he's playing in professional baseball.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, to be like, you have a sibling that's your same exact age.
I'm not explaining this to my I had 2 older children too at the time.
Yeah.
The older boys were 3 and 6. So I'm 4 and 7, right around there. So I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to explain that to them?
So to me, I mean, playing the devil advocate in that aspect, because I couldn't imagine like the feeling of actually, going through that process. However, the reasonings behind that, I mean, are pretty reasonable in the sense of
it's understandable.
You do not know.
It doesn't excuse it.
No, of course, but you don't know if that child, how do you know they wouldn't even become an addict or commit suicide or be able to handle the pressure of the fact that you are going to be in headlines, you are going to be photographed, you are going to be made a story.
I felt humiliated.
Right. And so that is also something that, in a sense, you have no idea how that would have ended up too. Yeah. Because it could have ended up really bad for your child.
100%.
Well, I can tell you right now that God forgives you. That is a for sure. The second part,
like, no, I'm a murderer. He doesn't.
No.
But no, he forgives murderers.
Yeah.
And that brings up something for me too. You bringing that up. That I'm not sure I've ever even talked about it. I have talked about it with like my sponsor and stuff like that, but definitely never in public and never on a podcast. But I have a very similar situation. And I was in rehab, and I had a rehab romance with a famous guy's daughter, and she got pregnant.
Oh.
And I was newly divorced, and I didn't want anybody to know about any of this stuff, so I convinced her to have an abortion. And she did. And the way I went about it was it was so horrible. You know, I ended up getting loaded again over it, and that lasted a couple of years.
It just it just wrecks you, you know.
Yeah. And I'm really like I'm an advocate for I'm pro-life, you know. I'm not
I am now. I mean, I there was so much fog up here that I wasn't pro-life or pro-choice.
That's the thing.
I wasn't. It was just
you can't go 5 years later.
You can't
10
see the
years
woods
later.
through the trees.
No, you can't.
And you can't go forward either. You can't be sitting here today. Well, you can because you are, and crying
Now.
about 10, 15 years ago because your mental frame of mind back then, you can't go back to that mental frame of mind.
she'd be 18 right now.
Right. And who knows if she would be a mess or even here.
Yeah.
So it's like you can play that role too. So and it doesn't take away both of your guys. It's like that moment in time where you had to make a decision and you're left with that feeling of grief in the sense of the emotions that come with that. But on the other end of the spectrum, you can play the tape the other way too. And like Shane's saying, like
And
all
that might
of
have
us,
been a difficult
totally.
road. That,
all of the things.
I had a
Guilt
weird thing
or-
happen.
have you forgiven yourself for it?
I have, yeah. I have. I do, but I always hold on to a little bit of guilt, because when I hold on to that little bit of guilt, it keeps me from making the same mistake again.
Yeah.
You know, because I know that I made a bad choice back then.
Yeah.
And I was in a bad frame of mind when I made that choice. And if it were to happen again today, which I mean, that exact thing wouldn't happen again today, but if had it happened,
Right, I would have told
today-
my ex-husband I'm aborting you.
Yeah,
Yeah, right,
I'm
right.
kidding.
exactly.
Right.
I would have
Joking
I
about
would have
that, but
it
figured
would've-
out
yes.
how to make this work.
I'm keeping the baby and leaving
Yes.
you. Is what
You
I would've.
know, I had been in a similar situation. Like
You
I
weren't in a great place.
I wasn't in a good headspace. I was I had had a daughter in the same type of situation as this already, and I was not prepared to do that again. In my mind my frame of mind at that time, I couldn't handle the pressure.
Yeah.
And that was the decision that I made.
It was life for no offense. It was life or death for you personally at the time.
That
You were making what you thought was a life or death situation for you to
Yeah.
live okay.
yeah.
And in all honesty, and this is also speaking on the other end, you made at that specific moment in time the best decision for that individual baby or child. Because if you are not in a okay, and I feel like you weren't an addict at that time, but your mental state was not well.
No.
Like you were not okay. You had so much work that was waiting for you to get done within yourself, for you to be able to now 15 years or 18 years later for you to say I would have left him and chose the
But at
baby,
the time,
right?
I was
No
broken.
way. You're very broken, and same with you. So like at that moment, looking at it in a more positive light is you were making the as a parent, I would assume this is how it feels because I'm not a parent, but you want the best for your children. So at that moment, at that specific time, you did the best decision that you thought was right at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of it is fear based. I
Right.
want to tell you a really quick story though, because I had a and this was kind of like a way that I ended up being able to forgive myself. But so years later, my friend Tony passed away from a horrible accident at the beach. He hit his head and he drowned jumping into a wave, and and a week after that, I was doing a yoga class, and we were at, at the very end of yoga classes, they have like that meditation where you just lay and you close your eyes. And well, I was closing my eyes, I was laying there, and all of a sudden I had this like outer body experience, and all of a sudden I disappeared, and I was somewhere else on this really beautiful field, and there was the only thing there was a picnic bench. And I walked over to the picnic bench, and my friend Tony was there, and he was just smiling and having a good time, and he was taking care of a little baby. And he looked at me and he said, instead of crying, I laughed right now, which is not the right response.
You almost got me, bro. You almost got me.
Me too.
I'm right there. I can't open my eyes right
thanks
now.
a lot.
Can't open my eyes right now, but I'm there with you, okay? Keep going. Sorry.
And Tony whispered into my ear, he said, all that matters is love. And you'll see like Andrew and them, they all have it tattooed on their arm because Andrew is his son. And that was the experience. And I couldn't figure out for a little while who that baby was. And then I realized that baby was my baby.
You didn't put the dots together until, okay. I think Shane and I did.
I did. For sure.
Yeah, because the second you said it,
Me too.
started to well up again too.
Yeah, well, it took me a couple of days to put the dots together because
And
right
then it
at
just
that
hit
moment,
you like a wall, and were you just like, oh my?
I was like, okay, and so I was like, wow, he was up there taking care of my baby.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing that.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
And I think this is how we have healing. We have like dialogue, and this is like a powerful podcast.
Because it's heavy.
Yeah, this is a powerful podcast because here's the thing that I was thinking while you were sharing, and I was like, man, there are so many women out there that have gone through the same experience as you have, and there are so many women who have never told anybody about that experience. And if you can help one woman, get through that pain, who's stuck in that pain, and who is, either has manifested diseases or is stuck in the disease of addiction or alcoholism because of that secret.
Because the secrets you keep are keeping you sick, and that trauma it stores in your body, and the grief and unforgiveness also stores in your body.
That was my second question to you is, how did you get through your illness?
Yeah. That was mine too.
And how much of that healing came as you started to heal your spiritual, mental, and emotional state?
Yeah.
I truly believe it all starts here in your mind. And so I am healed, but I'm not cured. And so a lot of this I'll live with, like, I have POTS syndrome and fibromyalgia and this and that. But so stress and anxiety and trauma will trigger it still, like not getting enough sleep or not eating. I have a very clean diet. I have celiac and all this gut stuff now, which is actually good anyway because I don't
For
have
sure.
all the
I'm celiac too.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
It's
So I'm with
hard
you.
at first. It's
It
really
is,
hard.
but then it's not.
But now I feel great
Yeah.
because all I eat is basically clean, grass-fed meat and eggs,
Yeah.
fruit, and vegetables.
Yeah.
And I did the carnivore diet to
Yeah.
heal. And I will say, it's like, it's not the carnivore diet or eating meat or the
Right.
celiac diet that heals you. If you do it, you can eat other things that are gluten-free.
Of course.
I don't even eat all that gluten-free bread and the
Sure.
gluten-free this and the gluten-free that because it's a lot of chemicals and
Sure.
fillers and preservatives. I mostly eat butter, all grass-fed, pasture-raised,
Yeah.
eggs. I don't even eat chicken anymore. Meat, lamb, animals that have the 3 stomachs.
Yep.
I was like, what's that word again? So the animals that have the 3 stomachs, the cows, bison, and lamb. And I eat fruits and vegetables, and I clean them with baking soda and to get all the glyphosates off of them. I used to live on oatmeal and cereal, and I even thought, I thought wheat thins were healthy 10 years ago. It's
Sure.
so crazy.
Sure.
They're called wheat.
Yeah,
right?
no, I
Yeah,
know.
and they're thin.
I
And
know.
they're thin.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be thin. They're wheat. Exactly. And you see, that's genius marketing if you
It
think
is.
about
Sure.
it.
Seriously.
Top notch right there. Top notch.
Yeah.
That was a
That's
Harvard
good.
education guy right there.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's why he got paid the big
Yeah.
bucks, right? So that right
It's
there.
wheat
So.
and it's thin.
Yeah.
Like just like Bethany Frankel got paid the big bucks for making Skinny Girl
Dude,
margarita.
for real.
And it's not the margarita, it's the name.
It is.
Skinny Girl.
Totally.
And every girl
because
bought it.
every chick, especially ones that are trying to, have a little cocktail and be like fancy because she was on the Housewives and want to be skinny.
But
They're going with the Skinny
marketed
Girl.
and
Killed it.
Uh-huh.
Totally.
And she
Marketing at its
patented
finest.
that name Skinny Girl, and that is literally, and it's just sugar. It's just sugar and
Totally.
cheap tequila. Really.
It's literally
lime juice or whatever.
Yeah.
I actually like it, but anyway, I don't drink much anymore.
Yeah.
But I healed through definitely my mind, my relationship with Jesus Christ. I feel like a broken record. I keep saying
Sure.
that, but God's word was literally like, this healing medication for my soul that was a broken heart, a broken soul that had this vacuum in it for love and affection and connection. Because, as infants, we're literally wired for attachment and connection. It's it's a survival mechanism.
Sure.
It keeps us safe.
Well, they say no touching, you get a mental illness.
Touching. And
No
so my
touching,
parents didn't hug.
Yeah.
They didn't hug. They didn't say, I love you. Both my memories growing up now, I realize that I think is really interesting is my parents, I don't remember making eye contact. It's very interesting. So it was like cook dinner, make it, sit down, eat, go to bed, get up, go to school, do this. And so there was no connection. And so we're wired for that. So when you don't have perfect parents, because nobody does, you can look to the Father that created you, and He is a perfect Father. He has no flaws, and He loves you perfectly, and He knows what you need to heal. And so He knows what broke you, and He knows what will heal you. And so He guided me. I did all kinds of things. From one thing I turned away from, God guided me in, though, was New Age practices. So I had done energy healing and Qigong and Chinese medicine and crystals and Reiki. I did all that, and I turned away from all of that, and I repented for it, because in what I believe was these New Age practices can open you up to demonic possession. So I cast all that out, rebuked it all, and went biblical, and I asked God to show me different ways to heal. And there are, just like when you go camping and you get poison oak or poison ivy, nearby there's always a plant or a root for the remedy.
Yes,
always. And when you go
always.
camping, you know that.
Yeah.
Like, my sister's really good at this because she's like a real outdoors girl.
Yeah.
I'm outsidey, not outdoorsy.
Yeah.
So I like it a little in doses, right? She will be like, oh, you got poison ivy? Okay, we got to go look for the lamb's tail that shakes and is shaped like this and gray in color. And there's always something for the remedy. And God provided everything we needed. And I believe that I'm not a big fan of the pharmaceutical industry. I believe sometimes temporarily it's good to help someone until they can get there. But for me, diet, I went total fasting. I feel like fasting healed me spiritually and physically. And it's hard to do. But I've done fasts for 24 hours to 72 hours to a week. How many hours is that?
Oh, wow. A week?
Yeah,
We
I'll do
did,
the
We did
CMOS.
3 days.
We did
3 days, 72.
We did 72
It's so
hours.
hard.
Yeah.
But if
It
you
changed
drink
my life. It
lemon
did.
or
And then
pepper,
we did put like salt in our water.
Celtic salt,
It really
filtered
helped.
water
Yeah.
or spring water,
Yes.
Celtic salt. So I'm big on all these modalities. So I feel that is one of the things that that's my favorite
Yeah.
water.
That's ours
I would like
too.
to get sponsored and paid, but that's
Yeah.
my favorite water right there.
Can somebody?
Us
We
too.
would like a
I would
sponsor
like
from
Shout
a
out
contract.
to we
it's,
would like
Mountain Valley.
Mountain Valley spring water. I would like
Contact
cases
us
delivered to
or
my home.
contact Jonathan
Oh yeah.
Coyle at jonathancoyle@gmail.com.
Seriously.
And CC Lyndi Kennedy coaching at gmail.com on that message. Just last night, I'm trying to budget and get out of kind of like the financial mess that I got into with my ex. And well, even my ex-husband that owes me a lot of money. Because our addictions, and there's not always substances, so there's gambling and things like that. So all the money I was supposed to get, I did not. And then the ex with getting sick and spent all my money getting better. So financially, I got really destroyed. And so just last night, it's funny, as I was telling my son, who's 22, we live together. And I said, we don't have the nicest apartment right now. We're getting out of this or whatever. And my car's in the shop. And I said, I try not to be bougie anymore. And he's like, Mom, you buy cases of glass green bottles of water that come to our house every few days. And I'm like, let me have a few things,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
And one of them is my Mountain Valley spring water.
Totally.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though. It's like she always says health is wealth, right?
That
And,
was
like-
the next thing I said to my son. I said, "Health is wealth, JT." His
It's
name
true.
is Jonathan. Also, it's when you have been sick, debilitated, and you cannot function, and
Yes.
you don't even have a life anymore because you are sick and in pain and
Who
miserable.
cares how much money you have?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You being sick and on your back, being in the pit of illness, you will never again take your health for granted ever.
Totally.
I never take a day that I feel good
You
for
know
granted
what's
ever
so
again.
funny?
Your
So
health
true.
is your wealth.
It really truly is. And here's the funny
I will
thing,
spend
though.
money on that.
I spend,
Oh, for sure.
I spend,
That's all I spend money on.
including my green bottles right here. I spend about $150 to $180 per week.
Groceries.
All organic, grass fed,
organic, grass-fed.
single ingredient food. I meal prep and like
Single ingredient food. That was one of the. That's how I live by. I love that.
That's so
yeah,
true.
Like
I mean, I
people don't-
started hunting for Pete's sake. My
You
husband and I,
did?
so we can get
I wanna go
elk, which
hunting
is
with you.
oh my god, yes. It's like elk is the best meat that you could possibly
Elk, bison.
eat.
Like
yeah,
I try to
exactly.
eat elk and bison and
Yeah.
lamb now.
Yes.
Where do you buy your meat? I know it's so confusing.
So I
sometimes
really
when
It
you
is.
have
It
the
really
headphones
is.
on.
I have another sponsorship I would really like if someone wants to.
Yeah.
There's that Snake River Farms. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
So they'll deliver it, and then it's all like farm raised and clean and out there. You know, they're living
Yeah.
the life that an elk
Yes.
should live.
Yeah, right.
And then it's shipped to you. So I'm not going to advertise for this, but I love Instacart and
It's the best. No, girl, high five. So I live in
hate going to the
Texas. I've
store.
been living out here because of the podcast and our treatment centers and stuff. Dude,
I love
Instacart is
DoorDash.
the bomb. Uber Eats as well as Amazon does it too because I'll get Amazon
I don't
from
use it, but-
Whole Foods and they'll
Yeah.
deliver to the house.
So I
Oh,
don't
they
do Whole
will.
Foods or Sprouts to answer your question and get a
Yeah.
lamb. Or they
Yeah.
sell bison and elk actually at
Yeah.
Whole Foods. Mothers sells it.
They
Yeah,
just
Whole
opened
Foods, I
up
got
this
some.
place right here in Laguna Niguel called Wild Fork.
Oh wait, I thought you were gonna say Wild Fork. There's one in Costa Mesa by me. I have not been there yet, but I've heard good things.
So, yeah, I mean they're they meat. I guess the way they freeze their
Is it flash
meat.
frozen?
flash frozen.
Okay.
Yeah, which
that's the
takes like
best way
15 seconds,
because-
right? I mean 15 minutes.
Yeah,
Flash
and then
frozen?
it lasts longer and it preserves the nutrients in
So
it.
they have
Oh.
bison, they have elk.
It's the
Wow.
freshest that way, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that's where I get my weird meat from.
So Wild Fork, okay.
Yeah, Wild
You know, we
Fork.
have a lot of sponsorships coming.
Yeah, I know.
I know. Please.
Holler at Hopeaholics, please. That'd
Like-
be great.
But no, people will ask me these questions all the time, so it's good to know, like, where do you get this? How do
Sure.
you heal? I am a huge advocate for fasting. Spiritually and physically, it will change you.
Yeah. I believe that one.
And it's free 99.
Yeah,
I mean,
totally.
you could spend thousands. I spent, I think, $80,000 getting better at IVs and treatments and
Totally.
brain treatments and all this healing and acupuncture. I do believe in acupuncture. I like acupuncture.
Yeah.
I think it's a great healing modality. I hate cold plunges, but I love it.
Oh yeah.
I
will.
cold
We're
plunge
all
every-
about it,
every,
that, like-
every morning.
I hate it too. I hate
hate
it, but I
So
love it.
we are kind of freaks.
Are you guys
know?
Are you guys biohackers?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
So
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Yeah,
That
big
is
time.
how, honestly,
Yes.
that is how I've healed
Yes.
through God, through biohacking, diet, grounding, things like that. Getting up to read my Bible and pray every morning has changed my
Totally.
mind.
yeah.
And then grounding, sunlight.
I'm like, girl, you work a 12-step program.
Yeah.
I need to.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
you do.
Hire me.
You're already
Okay.
doing it.
Okay.
Like you really are. But what I love, what you said is, I heard somebody say this, a podcast or something that I was reading. So, especially right now, because I really think like the younger generation, I feel for them in the sense of their like mental health is out the door. Everyone's
Social media
depressed.
is
Everyone's just
destroyed
has
their
anxiety. Like
COVID and social media has
Oh, for
destroyed
sure.
our youth's health.
big time.
Mental health.
100%. Like
It
nobody
breaks
knows
my
how to
heart.
talk to each other
No.
because everyone's obsessed with their phone.
Heartbreaking.
And I'm not saying obviously phones are great; they're a tool. But this is like I
There's
heard
good
someone.
and bad.
Yes, there is. There's pros and
If you
cons.
listen to the Hopeaholics podcast, there is a good social media tool right there.
Yeah.
There is the internet and your phone and everything used for good.
We're reaching
But-
people that wouldn't be able
For
to
sure.
be reached.
Yeah.
And that's the positive of it. But what I heard this person, I can't remember who it was, but it was it makes sense to me because Western medicine, whatever, but it's one of those things. And Western medicine is great for like if you have a heart attack.
Oh my gosh.
If you have like
A broken bone.
bone.
Yes.
You have
A heart attack.
Well,
Did you say that already?
Yeah.
There are things that I love doctors.
Sure, but when
Emily's
it comes
laughing.
to somebody like anxiety, depression, all of these things that people are constantly
Adrenal fatigue,
yes,
non-alcoholic fatty liver disease,
all of it.
autoimmune.
I've
I
heard this-
believe through diet
yes,
and
start there. Start with moving your body, like working out, doing like 30 minutes
Working
of
on your
going out.
mental health,
Yes,
yeah.
start with your
Walking.
physical and mental, and then we can go see the doctor. If
You'd be
you're
surprised what walking does. for
Totally.
your mental health, not physical. I mean,
all of it,
physical too, but
all of it, you got to move your body, being outside, doing all of those little things that you think are like a pain, but what it really is all of those things take effort, and going and getting a pill doesn't.
it's so that's a quick fix, and that's
Yeah,
why
and
our
it's a Band-Aid.
society is a Band-Aid. It just kind of covers it up. It never gets to the root problem, and in fact, a lot of times, and like we talked about, it will fester inside of you
100%.
and make it worse. Why do you
Yes.
think people on meds are ending up committing suicide? It's one of the
Totally.
side effects. Why is one of the side effects? Please explain to me why an SSRI side effect is suicide.
Totally.
Yeah.
Please tell me. You know,
How does that make it make sense?
Make it
You're-
make
Make it make sense, because
Yes.
that one to me is like
I can
mind blowing.
I can tell you why. So
Okay.
All of them say
I actually know. I actually
Advil
do
and
know
Tylenol
why,
say
with the-
and
with
death,
the- with
too.
those antidepressant
and they ruin your gut.
because
Big
you're
time.
Because the thing is that you're so depressed, right? By the time you go to a doctor, you're so far depressed that you actually are too depressed to even commit suicide, right? Then you start taking the SSRIs or antidepressant, and it takes time for those to work, right? So when you get right here, that's
Before
the
you get
spot before you get
here.
here.
Oh.
It can cause suicidal ideation. But there's also that other drug that actually just makes you like suicidal. The one that
Wellbutrin?
Chantix. It's basically it's Wellbutrin for smoking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really gnarly.
Yeah.
But
I'm
everybody,
not
but every
a fan.
person is different too.
Everyone's different.
and that's the thing is like, there isn't. I wish there was, because trust me, I remember telling my husband, this was before I was like, working my program and doing what I needed to be doing. I wanted to go to the doctor and get prescribed like a happy pill. But then thank God I married someone really smart, and then I started doing my program again, and everything was fine. But
We can be broken in relationships and heal in relationships.
completely.
So I love that your husband's been a safe.
oh,
place for you
he's
to
the shit.
heal.
He literally, shout out to Jonathan, because
I love
honestly,
that.
not only and he's a normie, so like thank God in the sense of he's a normie but understands the disease,
Yeah.
and is very supportive of like I had.
a safe place for you to heal.
Oh
and
my
just-
God, I
love
relapsed in
that.
front of him,
I
so
hope
he
that
got to
for
see.
that one day. Oh, you did.
Yes, he got to see like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde,
Uh-huh.
like off the chain. This person is like
And he
one,
just loves you.
and I mean he does, but he very much makes it clear I need to be working my program constantly. Like last night, I was on
But he
FaceTime
holds
with
you
my sponsee.
accountable. But that is love.
Yes. And I know that for me to be the best person for not only my relationship, but for business, showing up like with other people, my family, if I'm not working a solid program, all of like, I just become irritable, discontent, and not happy with myself. And then that spills out into
purpose.
everything else. When I'm doing all of those other things, it builds self-esteem.
Yeah.
It makes me be able to look in the mirror and be like, I am the shit. Like I'm doing my shit.
When you use your pain for purpose,
Totally.
when you turn your mess into a message,
Yes.
when you use your test for a testimony, your greatest ministry
Preach,
will
sister,
come out of
preach.
that. So,
Yes.
Yeah, your greatest obstacles will be your biggest ministry.
I mean, and look at you.
Look at you.
Look at like
Look at you.
look at your story. Like I'm sitting in front of me.
Look at
you.
you.
Look
You, man.
You.
Look at you.
You know what?
I love you, man.
Don't
I
be
love
jealous.
you.
Don't be jealous,
I
boy.
love you.
Huh?
Yeah.
Don't be jealous, boy.
You wanted part of that. It's okay.
Just
But
a little.
it is like you're a beautiful woman that has gone
Thank
through.
you.
I mean, a lot of stuff that an individual is. It makes and breaks you, and it broke you for quite some time until you were able to do all of the things that you searched for something, and then you finally found, which is God and Jesus and the Bible, and doing all of the other work of your diet, and incorporating that into your life, and then being able to share your message to others is what it's all about. And it has totally like reconstructed, reformed, and now you're able to understand the journey.
Yeah.
and the process to where
And that's
you're
why
at today.
people listen to you guys, because you've all been there.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take a whole lot of advice from someone
Oh, for sure.
that has never been through some of the things I've been through. And so I love that now I can say, I've been widowed.
Yeah.
I've been cheated on. I've had an abortion.
Yeah.
I've struggled to forgive myself and family members. I have been abused in every way as a child. I've been through abusive adult relationships. I have, what else? I have all these health issues. I can now minister to people from a place of empathy, sympathy. They feel seen, they feel heard because they know we've been there.
And that's what people do. That's what also you offer online, right? You're a coach.
Yeah. I just started. So I ended up, I went from a fashion blogger, but you said something in the beginning that I actually sometimes wonder if I built a fashion blog platform and grew it to a couple 100,000 followers, right? And, well, I had almost 300,000 until a couple years ago, I was on the Trump boat parade and all this stuff, and people sent me death threats, and I think about 40,000 people unfollowed me. But
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
it was so funny. People were so emotionally charged and triggered
Which
by
is
the
crazy.
My
dumbest
favorite
things
part
I've
though is
done.
when they have
So
to when
dumb.
somebody has to not DM you,
Yeah.
but comment that I'm leaving your platform
Yeah.
because you
Thank you for
posted
letting
this
me-
Yeah.
post, and I'm like,
Just
it's okay, just leave. You don't have to tell me about it. Like
I
I'm
have
not
had
I'm
hundreds
like
of
I'm gonna
messages
be
like that.
hurt.
I
Because-
love though when like the actual like awesome
Uncommon.
fans come back and will
That
comment
is-
back being like, they don't need to know that you're leaving. Bye.
they do,
Like-
and they'll fight it for you.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, oh, just sit back.
It's the
So,
best.
the best thing in the world to do, because we don't comment. Anybody says anything negative, none
You
of
just
us,
leave it?
we
Okay.
just leave it. We don't say anything ever.
Probably smart.
I don't. Sometimes I delete them because it's like, if it's like rude, I'm like, that's rude. Somebody said something mean about Natalie, told her to eat a sandwich.
And I took that as a
Oh.
compliment.
I was
because
like,
clearly your girl has issues.
People love to make comments like that.
so I was like, I'm deleting that one.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like, if somebody says something that I think is like ridiculous, I pin it to the top.
You do
Yeah.
not.
I do.
My husband will do that too.
I just pin it to
That's
the
funny.
top, and then I just watch. I just watch people that
You watch
follow
the
us.
other keyboard warriors go
Yeah.
after it. Okay.
Even my daughter was going after
Yeah,
a guy.
yeah.
It was funny. I was
was
like,
bad.
I was like,
15-year-old daughter.
She did
she's
really
like
well.
15. You know,
She
she's-
spoke like a super adult.
Yeah, you would have never
loved it.
known that it was a 15-year-old writing that.
Ever. I almost wanted
Oh,
to
her
comment being
comeback's
like, let you
good?
know. Oh, they were like, because it was like also talking about obviously like
we
our big
ran-
thing is the fentanyl like
Yeah.
epidemic and the
Right.
poisoning and the and what's happening into
Which
the
is-
United States.
yeah.
And so I really took everything to me not to comment like back to this person being like, just so you know, you just got punked by a 15-year-old.
Right.
Bye.
Boy, bye.
It was we ran into Vivek at
Oh, yeah.
at NASCAR, and we were having a conversation because I lost my son-in-law to fentanyl,
Yeah.
and we were having a conversation about it. We videoed it and we made it a reel, and in the reel we asked, should we have Vivek on the podcast,
Yeah.
and 95%. What do you think? 95, 90?
95?
I'd
With
say
the
like
road with us.
98,
Yeah.
99.
98, 99.
Good
We
guess.
had we had a bunch of no's.
Okay, fine, 95.
I'm like 90% of
I'm
the people
biased.
were like, they were like, yes, have him on. And then 10% were like, no. And then one guy just like went off.
So funny.
Because they get emotionally charged and then they and start thinking of like politics when it's like, so with the Hopeaholics especially, us individually, a little different story, but like the message is the issue, period. So like if Vivek wants to talk about the issue, which is the fentanyl epidemic that's happening, that's what we're talking about. That's the issue, and we need to do something about it instead of like twiddling our thumbs and allowing other countries to just like do whatever they're doing and seep
Put it
in here.
Sweet
And
Tarzan. I mean, that was
come
so
on.
scary at Halloween time as
Right?
a mother.
Dude.
Kids going
that's
trick-or-treating.
insane.
They were sending messages even from the school saying, you know.
I mean, that's like the fact that they're sending messages. So we're in America, and the fact that we have to send messages out to parents, allowing or like letting them know that this is a situation going on. How are we not doing something about it?
Terrified.
Like that's
let him eat
insane.
candy. I was. I'm not gonna lie.
Of
So
course.
I was like, sorry, but sugar's so bad for them anyway. I was like, sorry.
Yeah, sugar's,
yeah.
sugar's poison anyway.
It really is.
It is.
I mean,
It
for
really
sure.
is.
It's a much safer poison, though. I mean, want to be
yeah.
clear.
Let's be
about
clear.
That.
Yes.
Like
100%.
Like I'm possibly gonna have sugar tonight, just so everybody knows. But I am not gonna have fentanyl.
No.
You know.
Oh, thank goodness.
I mean, I'm eating unhealthy tonight. I'm going to Benihana's. It's my son's
I love
18th.
Benihana.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Benihana's
18th
amazing.
birthday
Shout out-
party.
shout out
Shout
to
out to
Coop.
There you
Coop.
go.
Shout out to Coop.
Yeah.
Koopaloop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Natalie and I can't make it because we're working.
Yes, we have
Yeah.
a Recover Out Loud meeting. That's why we're a trio.
Yeah.
One of somebody has to. You know,
Yeah, every Tuesday
family's
night.
important.
Every Tuesday night we have a Recover Out Loud meeting.
Oh,
That we
Mhm.
So
just
cool.
everybody's welcome. You don't have to be an addict or an alcoholic. We have normies. We have moms that
Yeah.
have lost their children from fentanyl's, dads, addicts, alcoholics, and everybody comes together just to heal. Because the root cause of everything, every issue that we all have, the root cause is all the same, and everybody knows what it feels like, and that root cause is pain.
Mm-hmm.
It's pain.
You know, and pain is what we hide from, and I sat for so many
You're
years
just trying to numb it.
in
Yeah.
pain because of the fear of walking through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because we were taught, like in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, we were taught to not to keep secrets as well. You know, I don't know why we're taught that, and then even on top of that, we've got that other men thing where we're like, I'm not supposed to feel
And cry.
and cry.
I think it's our generation too, because I feel like we're all around the same age. That like even like growing up in our household,
Well,
it's like
Shane,
okay,
That's
Shane's
just
a little bit
fine.
older, but
Damn
but, you know, and my parents too is like kind of what you're saying is
You brush it under the rug.
you brush under the rug, and like to the outside world, everything is
Yeah.
peaches and cream. Like, and then what's really going on is like really a lot of chaos. But I think that's kind of like maybe our generation. You know, I'm not quite sure because it seems like we all have very much similar things of like keeping things.
well,
in.
I would like to work with it. You know, like I do this podcast too for the younger generation
Yeah.
to know that it's okay to walk through this pain
Oh, for
and
sure.
to like face your fears
Yeah.
and not get triggered and run over here and hide from things
Yeah.
that you don't like. You know, it's like, come on, you know.
It's hard, and walking through the fire instead of around it is truly the way out.
Mhm.
For sure.
And people are it seems scarier than it is.
Right.
It really does, but
It's actually freeing.
it's freeing.
I feel
it
free. Even
is.
just
Me
telling you right now
too.
what I told you and crying. Like, I don't talk about that. I feel free.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because what it does is like, and that's why our meeting is awesome too, because a lot of times we don't talk about these things out loud. We keep them in. And that's like also the issue. And being able to say things out loud with others that either can relate because they've either gone through it or just to say, I
There's
understand and
something
it's
about confessing
okay.
it with your tongue. Like,
Yes.
it's, you know.
I mean, in the word it says,
Well,
the tongue is
life and death is in the
yes,
tongue. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's like,
My favorite book is called Hung by the Tongue.
I don't know that one.
It's a book based on spiritual principles in the Bible, and it talks about that everything
Everything
we
we
speak we speak into existence. So
it's
it's not
true.
it's
It's so
yeah,
true.
it
It
is, and
is.
we were made in the image of God, right? And how did
Yeah.
God create? God
He spoke
created
it
by
into
spoke it in
this-
speaking it into existence.
Yeah.
He what's Genesis 1:1 say, Shane?
Don't know.
Yes, you do.
Oh, no.
It says, "In the beginning, God
Oh, in the
created the
beginning,
heaven
God created
and
the heavens and the earth.
yeah, you knew that one.
Yeah, barely. I'm going to start reading.
Yeah, it's good.
Start reading the Old Testament. I got to start with the Old Testament.
Yeah, you should.
Genesis,
I mean,
you said, right?
it's all good.
No,
And
she
I
said
mean,
no,
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 it's
Proverbs.
Psalms
Proverbs
is really, really
so
good.
Psalms
too.
is good. It's healing.
Yes.
John is a great book to understand who Jesus Christ is. And
Yeah.
once you know who he is, it will change your life. And so I like John, but Genesis is the beginning, and you can read it from Genesis to Revelation. It's up to you.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I started really walking, because as a Mormon, we didn't focus on the Bible, and we were actually told that it wasn't really translated correctly. So we don't really focus on it. I didn't dig into the Bible much. We just focused on the Book of Mormon, and I know verses by heart from it and everything.
Sure.
And now I'm like, okay, I have to start all over. So when I started walking with the Lord and truly following Christ from the Bible, I started in Genesis, and honestly, a lot of it just went over my head, and it just was a lot of mumble jumble a little bit. I mean, yes, I get Adam and Eve and all of that. But then once you understand it and you have principles line upon line to build on, and then you go back and study Genesis, it is rich and full of so much. And so it's just a whole different understanding. For me personally, to go back and do Genesis after understanding
For sure.
my faith a little more and the gospel of Jesus Christ a little more.
And like it depends on like the specific time in your life too.
True.
When you go back and you read something, it hits different always.
You can read Corinthians, you can read Romans, and it will, or just a chapter out of it at a different place in your life, and it will completely speak a totally different.
And that's why it's like so powerful, because it's like there's so much. Like, you will not be bored.
No, and you can read it again and again and again. And it is the living, that's why it's called the living word of God. It is a living word. It really is. And the Holy Spirit will speak through
if there's
you.
any really good audio books about the of people reading the Bible and making it like more fun, like the podcast. Not like because it could be really boring if they read it boring.
You can come to my Bible study.
Well, and you have to get the right.
I teach a Zoom Bible study.
Do you?
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
You have
make it fun.
You have to also get the right rendition that is like you're able to like understand. So like they have like
New King
exact
James,
like instead of
the
ESV, NLT,
NLT, NIV, like
New International Version NIV.
in case you were wondering.
Yeah.
I was wondering.
Well, which is really important, because obviously when you're reading the Bible, like how it was first written,
Shane can read.
it's very
it.
kind of
Shane
difficult
can
to
actually read,
understand.
a lot of it in
Hebrew.
in Hebrew.
Oh, do you speak Hebrew?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yes.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know at what point in my life I'll actually have the time to learn the Hebrew language, but I love learning the Bible and taking words now. And when I teach the Bible studies, I teach on Zoom.
When are your Bible studies?
So I do one on Monday evenings and Friday mornings at 10 a.m. and I do them on Zoom.
Nice.
And
Can anybody sign up?
Anyone
Or
can come. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all Zoom, so you can come. And some girls turn off their camera, or men,
Sure.
they turn off the camera and they're just drinking their coffee, or they've got their baby in their arms with it on and sweats. And I look crazy when I do it. I usually have my hair up and no makeup on. And yeah, we're just studying the Word of God. And
awesome.
And I just love it because I learn.
Of course.
From doing it.
Mondays what time?
So Mondays at 5, and then Friday mornings, I was doing 9:30, and I'd have girls be like, "Sorry, I overslept."
Yeah.
I wish I was still in bed at home.
Yeah.
So I changed it to 10. I can change it, or we're gonna start recording it because I love it. It's actually changed my life teaching it, because I learn more, and I'll dig into the Hebrew meaning. And the Bible really, if you look at it, because it was written so long ago, right? So a lot of people will misinterpret verses and words, but if you look at the Hebrew meaning, it will change the Bible, and it's really cool. I wonder. Maybe you could teach my Bible study.
I wonder when the Old Testament was written.
I'm going to join Monday at 5. I'm going to come in just for the heck of it.
Yeah.
Wait, I wonder. I really do wonder. Do you as a Jew know when the New Testament? I mean, the Old Testament was written.
No clue.
Long time.
Yeah.
It was the first,
because one
of the first things written, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Has to be.
Has to be.
This is about 500-600 years before Christ came, or some of the books.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
then
now
he came,
we
and then the New
are
Testament
2024.
Unless the Gregorian calendar says otherwise. It's supposed to be 13 months.
We're actually in the year 77,000. We're in the year 7,500, according to the Jewish calendar, which is the oldest calendar in existence.
Oh, okay. So the Gregorian calendar shortened the year.
Yeah, I think we're 7,500 right
There's
now.
how many
say
around 13?
Biblically says around 6,000. That's why I don't believe in dinosaurs.
Yeah, I mean that's all the stuff that I grew up learning. That's I same thing, and I'm like really a fan of getting rid of all those crystals and stuff, because you can't have Jesus and
5784.
Okay.
It's the same.
Okay.
6,000.
It's around 6,000.
So 5784. That's what we have now.
I do
The
believe
total-
the calendar was
total Earth?
changed and that it's off a little bit though.
Yeah.
57.
But I don't know by how
According to the
much.
Hebrew Bible.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like I can't learn
That's
everything.
that's
No, for sure.
no. I mean that's what I believe. I believe the Hebrew Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was written in Greek and Hebrew.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Well, Jesus spoke. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Jesus spoke Hebrew. Correct?
Yes, he was Jewish.
I don't want to say anything
No,
wrong,
he was
but
Jewish.
yeah.
Killed by the Roman Catholics.
That's right.
handed over,
That's not the point. He was
handed
killed by
over
the
by
Roman-
his own people.
Oh,
We're
listen.
gonna have he was
Damn you all.
okay. That is a whole nother discussion.
Yes. Yes.
And I do not want to fight with anybody.
Yeah.
No, we're not fighting.
I know, I'm totally joking. but People get very
Yeah, not
Oh,
me.
yeah.
Not
I
me.
don't know. I mean, he's the only like real Jewish guy that I mean, and I didn't
We're
even,
few and far between.
huh?
There's only 16 million of us in the world.
Left.
To know a Jew, you really have to dig deep.
like,
I mean, let's
there's
be honest.
16
I feel like I know a
Mormons.
couple.
16 million Jews, that's it.
There's a
And
lot
how
fewer
many
beach,
people
so I know
are
it's
there
different.
in the world? There's 7 billion.
Almost 8 now, I
Eight,
think.
almost 8
We're
billion.
crazy?
1%.
Yeah.
of population.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess that would be more.
How many is the Christian? You looked it up the other
2 billion.
day.
2 billion.
2 billion
Two
is the
billion
Christian.
affiliated
And
with the-
Muslims was
2 billion.
2 billion in the
Is
Muslims.
Muslims that high?
Oh,
Yeah.
I bet, and it's going to
Trouble.
continue to
Big
grow.
trouble.
Oh, okay.
No offense.
No
not
offense to anybody that's a Muslim
God.
watching our show.
You see what's going on?
We
over
didn't
here?
say
I think that is a perfect time for us to end this
Yeah.
podcast.
We might
And
just
we
bleep
are-
that part out.
Google said that, not Shane, right?
Like,
Sorry.
on that note,
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
I
Yes.
did not
Yeah,
realize
what
that the
a-
Muslim. It
2
was
mil,
that.
2
I didn't.
billion, yes.
I didn't realize that.
Yes.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for
You're welcome.
coming
What a breath
and
of
being
fresh air.
Yeah, so awesome.
vulnerable.
Thank you for having
Really cool.
me.
Yeah.
I think you guys
Amazing.
might have helped me in one more step of
Thank God.
healing.
no, you helped yourself,
So
you know?
I think that was needed a little bit.
Yeah.
Push.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for being a
Appreciate it.
safe place to do that.
Oh, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean,